Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do get started, let me give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. We had Deku. Now, Izuku, he was taking a few days off. In that amount of time, he was given a quest by King Solomon, where he slayed a poison wyvern, and gained a Dragon Slayer marking. Now, Izuku, after spending an entire day going over books and information he can find about these markings, he didn't really learn too much. However, he did learn about the tales associated with markings like the one covering his chest. Now, Izuku, he then also went through the loot they got from the dragon's cave whenever he was curious about it. Now, he went back to his wagon and was able to pop open that chest, where he found quite a lot of things, most importantly of which was a grimoire. Now, Izuku, he saw the magical power that could be displayed in this world, and he's not even sure if that is the limit of it. There are spells in there he didn't even believe existed until he read them. There's a spell that allows you to change the weather and cause a snowstorm, a blizzard, make it snow, whatever you want it to be. The idea of changing the weather so dramatically, it's it was nearly unfathomable to him until he saw it. But now, he's not too sure how powerful magic truly can be. Now, he asked Rosa about that, and then later, whenever he was meditating, Sir Theodore decided to find Izuku, tell him about the next step of his magical training. And that was where Theodore also talked about a few things about the history they do find themselves with. Deku learned that the species here didn't evolve. They weren't created by the gods, but they were created by some. The people who stepped onto this plane for the first time created their species. Humans, orcs, elves, you name it. Dwarves, goblins, they created them. They enslaved them. But when the deities gave them magic, they rebelled. And that's why it raises a lot more questions. It's interesting as well, however. There's going to be a celebration at the castle to commemorate the day they believe this tradition started, where everybody broke free from the chains that called them slaves, a day their ancestors have relished for decades, millennia. And this is where Deku, he also found himself somewhat trapped in. Sir Theodore is aware that the celebration is taking place at the castle, and now that they want the hero's attendance, it does throw his entire schedule that was planned completely out of whack. So just spending more time here, but his training with Izuku is going to get more intense as a result. Now then, with that being said, because Sir Theodore has had to change things around, he has decided to start Izuku not only on raw magic training, but on weight training. And with that being said, it has been a few days. Izuku, whenever he started this training, he did not take to it very well. And there currently is his party, Oliver and Pyra. These two, when they heard that Sir Theodore was going to be training Izuku at the castle, they wanted to join in. And the man, he was not opposed to this. In fact, his ideas were going to be quite easy. If they're going to be involved and with Izuku on the battlefield, it's quite simple. They need to push their limits as well. And that was made quite apparent. As right now we do currently have Deku. It's been a few days. And he currently has a few things going through his mind. He's trying to focus, keep himself steady and standing. As right now, he does sit there, the weights covering his wrist and binding his ankles, as he does go to hold on his back right now 3 large slabs of stone. And this, it does mean quite a bit. Deku, he does hold them over his head with his hands up, trying to think about a few things. Deku currently on one knee with his hands up holding the stone, his head leaned down as he does feel stuff pressing down on his spine. And he does have a lot going through his mind. This is pressure. Sir Theodore's talked about it before. He's got to stay here and withstand this weight. He added more weight. Of course he did. All because he killed a dragon. That's good though, right? Maybe you should increase his strength stat a little bit. Does he even have available points? Crap. No, he might not. Deku's sitting there, feeling like Atlas carrying the world. As right now he's at a turn and look directly at his party members. Seeing as Oliver and Pyra, they do come running around into the courtyard. Oliver going to fall to the ground and trying to catch his breath before he has a turn. And Pyra does try to bring up her hands before looking at the weights that do cover her wrist. Her going to somewhat scratch at the area and go to try and talk to Oliver, telling him about what she's feeling. And there is with the two do to turn, looking at Deku, who does just stand there, going to stand to his feet for pushing the weights off. Right now the 3 massive slabs gonna smash the ground as Deku. He does get a stand. Currently, him turning his head and cracking his neck. Before he does lower his arms and go to fall to one knee to the ground, bringing his hands down and feeling the weight immediately not hurt his arms. Before he does go to suck in a breath and try to calm his nerves. Calm himself down. Theodore is trying to stop him from using his skill, but it's a little challenging, a little hard. He doesn't know how to consciously activate it yet. It just happens. And it's the hardest part. That 3rd stone might be because of that. But raw magic, raw mana training, it's gonna be good. He's still looking forward to it. The man expressed about a few skills he might be able to teach him. He already taught him Mage Hand, but he's talking about others. Fire magic, even some of the ice magic stuff he might have seen in that damn book. And this, it does make Deku pull himself to his feet as the two do get to see that. Deku standing up and going to raise his arms. Before there is Theodore. Deku turning his head as the man suddenly disappear, expressing to him that he did pretty good. Now, if that is all, is he ready? Because his members, they ran pretty damn far to make sure he can get that weight off so soon. And it's only been 2 hours. So, what does he think is the next current step? The man turning his head, waiting for Deku to answer. And while he doesn't look away, he does go to stare at somebody who does sit there watching this training. Nizuku, he does go to turn to his party members. The man yelling out and going to somewhat whistle. before Deku to turn back to Theodore and see multiple versions of him beginning to manifest. Alarmed and looking at the magical aura that is surround these versions of him, each one stepping forwards, before Theodore does a talk about it. Now, all of them are going to attack. There's going to be 3 on Izuku, and then 1 for each of the 2. He's going to stand here and coordinate. If any of them get hit by one of the attacks, then there's going to be repercussions, more training, and afterwards, there is going to be a sparring match. Does he make himself clear? Right now, him staring at the copies that do sit there. And Izuku, he is quite alarmed, since he didn't know he had this skill, this magic. And it does make him a little bit more intrigued. Going to bring his hands down and going to try and grab for a sword. However, he has a look down realizing that he's not wearing his sword belt. And Theodore does his own smile, seeing that that instinct has become a sort of second nature to Izuku, for turning to Oliver and Pyra, telling the 2 he's aware that one of them uses a damn sword, and one doesn't. So, he's going to make things easy on them. They can team up together and work. Though, they do have to evade attacks. Would they be able to do that? And they do just don't look at the man, trying to nod their heads as they do to attack. Now, Izuku, he does try to dodge the copies, trying to play defensive and stay at a distance. And there currently is somebody watching. Right now, Princess Lilian sitting there, aware about the events that are going to happen in 2 days. It's not a lot of time, and she's a little concerned about it. Her father is going over a lot of things with nobles, and she herself has heard quite a lot happening with their allies, people within the kingdom. The entire city is going to be full of party members. People filling the streets with alcohol, old recipes, things like that. Celebrating this festival, this grand day of freedom for all of their people. And Lilian, she does just don't stare out. It's a foreign concept to Izuku. And, well, her father talked about him talking, preparing a speech, or being shown to many people. The royal court are in talks, since they finally do see Izuku as a hero. However, they're still apprehensive about that. There's going to be a lot happening. Dancing, talking, things of this nature. And she is a little bit more intrigued about this. She wants him to be there, wants him to know what's happening. So, should she interrupt his training? Cut in a bit? No, she does have her title. It does have her own interest at heart. This is for the benefit of her father, the man that he was. He gave his life for this freedom. And the Demon Lord creeping in like this, being that shadow that does cast over the day. Yeah. She won't allow that. Currently her stepping out. And there is where Deku, he currently is on the defensive, trying to evade attacks and stay away, going to roll to the ground as he does a turn, going to try and bring up one of his hands and going to cast barrier magic, And whenever that barrier does come up, it is a crack over the copy of Theodore, just smash into it. It going to be pushed backwards as Deku. He doesn't watch the barrier hold. Him going to step backwards and going to drop the barrier. Before he has to maintain a distance, and the copy does a rush forwards, throwing his fist up for throwing it forwards. And it does a stop whenever Lilian does go to walk out. Deku falling backwards to the ground with a thud. Before he does, gonna bring his hand up and get ready to cast another barrier. Before it does the turn and go to dissipate. Theodore gonna stand for expressing about how Princess Lilian, it is nice to see her again. And what can they do for her on this fine day? I would like to talk to Izuku. That is all. I do not wish to interrupt your training, however, but there are a lot of things going on. I see. And these things, they wouldn't happen to be related to the event, would they? Unfortunately, Sir Theodore, they are. I do not wish to interrupt your training, however, but I believe it is good that he is prepared. Go ahead. We worked on his footwork the other day, so he should be better. I was already expecting this, but I'm surprised I wasn't interrupted sooner, let alone told to halt his training. Then again, I suppose the court would know what's best. Is this a matter of the court? Your father? Or are you trying to take your own concern, Princess Lilian? With all due respect, I am curious. I am following my own assignment, as you are aware. I do understand, Sir Theodore. No, the court, it is still debating against acknowledging Izuku. Huh, I see. I had a similar problem a few years back. I am aware, Sir Theodore. Though, I believe that they are beginning to see the pattern. Her turning, expressing to Izuku about how she would like to talk to him about a few matters, since it could be quite vital in the upcoming days. And Deku does pull himself to his feet, before he has a nod and turn to Sir Theodore, the man telling Izuku about how he can take off the weights for this, since he does have a good idea as to what might be happening. And Izuku immediately does respond, bringing his hand up and going to grab the weights. Theodore walking over and taking them in his hand, before he has a bent down and going to somewhat loosen the ones around his ankles, for hand them off to the man who does a turn. Right now, him gonna run off and try and catch up to the princess. And she will watch Izuku, who does move a little awkwardly since he was used to those weights. Although he does try to readjust quickly. And the two did a walk down the hall as she to ask questions, wanting to know what Izuku does know about the upcoming festival. And he does try to tell her about how he's aware that the gods gave them magic for freedom, and they used it to rebel. But that's really about it. And she does tell him that that would be correct. It happened millennia ago. And right now, a lot's happening. Many people celebrate this holiday. However, she is concerned about him being here. Does he know how to dance? No, I don't. Is that a problem? I don't believe so. It would be good for you to show off participating in these events, Izuku. It would show off that you are aware and understanding of this semblance. I'm sorry, the reason we celebrate. Having you partake in the festivities would be good. Not only are you a hero, but You are staying here. Yeah, yeah, you're right about that. Though, sorry, it's just, I'm still trying to get used to things here. I understand. Tell me, Hergus won't turn. Ask him exactly what his world is like. It's interesting to her. She's heard a few things from what people have said around. She's asked questions, and, well, it's a whole situation, isn't it? It is. To be honest, magic doesn't exist in my world. Neither do the gods that you have. I mean, I've never heard of a Ritus, or, well, Ritus himself, until he came to me. I see. You don't have other deities. No, no, we don't. We don't. I mean, that's another thing. Certain inventions you guys have here are similar to some things, but that's about it. It's all, I mean, medieval. And that was quite a long time ago for my world. Medieval. That is quite an interesting statement. Yeah, it was hundreds of years ago for us, but I mean, I don't understand how things work here. I see advancements in some places, but older stuff in other places. It's interesting to me. Is it now? Yes, it is. The two walk into a room. Before, Deku does hear a song playing in the air, and this does have him quite intrigued. Before, Lilian does a talk about it, turning as Deku does a look at her, meeting her purple eyes, about how there's been a spell cast. They wanted to practice it, see if they can get the echo right in this room. It's going to be where a majority of the party might take place. Deku looking around. The room is large, and there's nobody here. There are tables, there's a lot going on here. And she does go talk about it, bring her hand up, about how perhaps it would be a good idea to teach him a bit about dancing. Right now, she can help him about she can help him with that. It's all about footwork. And she's aware that carrying a blade might be similar. Really? Bring his hand up, as he does a grab hers, and her hand is soft. She's willing to help him on this. And Izuku, he does take her up on this offer. They do to wait. Her trying to direct Deku on his footwork, the way his stance is. And Izuku, he instinctually planted his legs as if he was getting ready for combat. However, after his legs do go to untense, he does shift them slightly, allowing them to go a bit more pointed outwards, as he does go to turn his ankle to a different direction. Right now, him going to be told by her. Lilian bringing up one of Deku's hands and placing it to her side, trying to direct him about how this will go. Follow her lead. She'll show him how his part would go. And this is where the two do to wait. Before she has a talk about it, and this will be the start of the song. Going to lead Izuku on, showing him about what they're doing. And this is where Deku, he does go somewhat look down, trying to think about what he's doing. It's different from fighting. The two are dancing. And he's dancing with a princess no less. Lilian tried to tell him to keep himself steady, keep himself focused, and to be careful. Right now, her going to somewhat spin as Deku, he does gonna move. Her going to be a bit more surprised over Deku, he does try to keep himself at a steady pace. Not too fast, not too slow. And the two, they do continue to somewhat dance. Before Deku does a step on her foot. Her, somewhat wincing as Deku, does go to let go, pulling back and apologizing. Since he thought he. Dang it. It's quite alright. Her bring her hands up, informing him that it's still relatively new to him. Perhaps, however, his training should take less priority. Are you sure? I've got to get stronger. There will be plenty. There will be plenty of time for that, Izuku. Right now, we would like to maintain appearance. I can inform Sir Theodore of this. You should take a break, however. You seem rather tired. Yeah. Bring his hand up. And she does go to see a bruise on Deku's wrist. Before she says some step forwards, Deku rubbing his wrist as she does go to grip his arm, talking about it. That does look rather bad. Is he alright? Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's just, it looks worse than it is. It's alright. The weights are a little heavy. That's all. You have been training hard. Yes, I know. I appreciate the help, Princess Lily, and I do appreciate the compliment. It's just dancing I'm not used to. Training I kind of am. Before I came here I was training. And well, I just haven't stopped. I'm used to it at this point, I guess. I mean, if you asked me a year ago, I'd tell you I hated it. But now I don't know. It feels more natural. What do you mean? What I mean is, I like it here. I mean, I'm important here. People respect what I say. People look at me for guidance. Look at me for a lot of things. And I'm glad I can be that for people. I had someone be that for me. My former mentor, All Might. I don't know where he's at now. But I think if he knew what I did, he'd be proud of me. I think All Might would understand. He wanted me to take on his ability, his power. I guess it doesn't matter anymore. His power could be passed down to me. I would have taken it and tried to help people. And here I can make a bigger difference. Maybe be a better hero. Be who I want to be. Deku walking over. Before he says, sit down for a second. And he does not feel the fatigue immediately rush to his body. Before he's to tell her, going to sit there, leaning forwards onto his knees. That, it's a whole issue for him. His whole life he didn't have power. And here he does. looking up at the princess, telling her, here people value what he says. People value him. He practically didn't exist in his other world. But here, now, everyone looks to him. It's something. He doesn't know if she'd understand, and to be honest, he feels like he might have shared a little too much about this. Bring his finger up, somewhat scratching the side of his face. Before I tell her, if they're done here, maybe practicing dancing might take a bit of a back foot. And she doesn't look surprised. For gonna smile and telling Izuku that for right now, she would suggest that they practice a little bit more. However, she would like him to take a break. Her walking over, someone going to bend down and fall to a knee, telling him. Right now, she's advised him to get some rest. Maybe eat something? Do something to pass some time. She will try to teach him how to dance. Follow things the way her teacher taught her. Afterwards, maybe do whatever he wants for the rest of the day. Sir Theta will understand, since this is rather important. The party, if that's the best way of putting it for him, it will be quite important. His appearance is mandatory, and she would like him there. Her bring a hand up, talking about it. Many people do have faith in him, and she does have the same faith in him as well. They will get him sorted as well. People are already working on an outfit for him to wear. Really? Yes. You will, however, have to wear a ceremonial sword, different from your usual attire. It will be just as functional, but it will be practical as well. Okay. I guess that does work. Are you sure, though? I don't know why I have to dance then. Practice, Izuku. It is good to show that you do know certain things of this world. How can you save a world if you do not live in it? I guess I see your point. Himgris won't smile. Before she has dismissed Deku, and he does go leave, thinking about what he should do with a bit of this time she's given him. Right now, he does want to soak in a hot bath and relax. That's the number one thing on his list. However, another idea is leaving and going to the armorer, the person in charge of making his current gear, checking to see how his sword's going, how all of that is. Yeah, right now that might be the best idea. And he does it to leave. Right now, leaving the castle and running through town. And people, they do see Izuku, some waving at him, some smiling, some even gonna throw their hands up and beat them against their chest. Before Izuku hears a run by, him waving a hand to many of them. Before he has a walk into a shop, and the man behind the counter is somewhat mumbling to himself about a few ideas. Right now, him sewing something before he does a turn, looking up and seeing Izuku, before he has to clap his hands and go to talk about it. Jumping up about how they're quite happy to see him again. They completed his order the other day, and they are quite happy to see how things did turn out. Him gonna nod. For the person to quickly run to the back of the shop and try to find Izuku's gear. Before they do come stepping out and talking about a few things, since they do currently have the armor, along with what they did not use, handing it over to Izuku, who does go take the bound wyvern skin and look down at it, seeing how much smaller it is, before he has to put it in his inventory and it doesn't disappear. The man watching that, before he turn and grab the outfit, before handing Izuku the pants and telling him about how they took some liberties creating the outfit, doing quite a bit of things. The scales and much of the, well, skin itself was used in creating a lot. The pants are insulated, and they do provide a lot of heat, and they do also provide cooling. The scales on the inside, and they do protect, along with the leather, which, as he will see, is a darker color. Though, they also did make him a new weapon spawn as well. Izuku's standing there, before he's to look down at some of the fur that does cover his torso, looking down at the fur that does cover his pants as well, before seeing some of the metal plates that do go to somewhat stick out. The man expressing about how the blacksmith, they did try to redesign things. They tried to fit light plating to the wyvern skin, and it did provide, well, good protection. The skin should provide him resistance to acid. The armor is on there as an additional measure. A little bit more weight to help even things out, since it may not look strong, but it already was quite durable. He already had a little bit of trouble making that armor. For his turn, Deku, carrying the weapon belt, that does go to currently lay over one of his shoulders and go to run down to his torso. The man, handing off the bracers, and Izuku does to take them, feeling more like a barbarian, looking at himself in the mirror. I mean, he can hang weapons from the belt on his torso, but other than that, this feels a little odd. The man expressing, seeing Izuku's bewildered look, about how he did have that set up as something more for winter attire, or, well, for hotter attire. Though he does actually have a shirt for him. Going to someone hold it up, telling him about how this was designed for colder weather. However, he did want him to show off his legendary achievement. Before he is handed over, and Deku does take this dark purple leather tunic. Before he does not bring it up, beginning to put it on and seeing how it does fit, feeling the way it does rub against his shoulders, before he does go to look down and begin to button it up, seeing how it does feel, turning his shoulders and beginning to somewhat stretch, bringing his hands behind his back and going to lean backwards, allowing his chest to puff out forwards and feeling this, before he does the look down, looking to the mirror and seeing himself. Bracers, a short sleeve shirt that does somewhat have armor covering his biceps, and then these pants that are covered in a fur. It's nice. He does have light plates tacked onto this leather, but they're for protection. And there's bracers. Yeah, they're light as a feather. This does work. The halfling man currently sitting there, so rubbing his hands together nervously, asking the hero how he does like the work. It's interesting. It's nice. I'm not entirely too sure about the metal plates sewn in, though. That's the one thing I'm a bit more reluctant about. They're not heavy. They could bring his arms over his head. Before telling the man but they do definitely feel a little strange to move in. I understand. Mobility was kept in mind, however. Uh, well, I was just concerned more about the practicality of the leather. It is quite tough to move in, and, well, if it does not have a spell applied to it, then there is worries of it wearing down over time. Wyvern skin is incredibly durable and quite resistant, however, but there is still the concern. The concern of it wearing down? Yes, yes. At some point, I feel it would be very terrible for you to be wearing worn out armor. If it is enchanted correctly, then it would last you a lifetime, maybe even pass on one day to your children. The goose staring at the man, and that last part, it does kind of catch him by surprise, since he didn't really intend to stay here that long. Huh. Well, it could pass on to somebody, right? Hmm. Right. No, he's just gotta. Maybe. I don't know. The scales look a little darker, though. I mean, they're not bad, but maybe the plates are a little too much. If I give you some more of the leather, would you be able to fix this? I certainly can. Though I did try to take creative liberties where I could. The pants, however, do you feel comfortable with that, or was it too much? The legs do need protection, and while it does feel comfortable, I'll keep the tunic with the plates on it for right now. I'll pay extra for the regular leather tunic, though. How fast do you think that can be done? Well, I could certainly do quite a bit. Though, I might be able to make slight modifications to the one you are currently wearing. Perfect. I would appreciate that. The man nodding his head. Before he used to ask Izuku, exactly, if he would like it to be plain leather. Or, well, anything else. The leather works just fine. But if you know anything that can be done to improve the defensiveness, I would appreciate that. I see. I can certainly get it done. However, pounding the metal into the leather might take some time. Deku looking on a little confused. Before the man does somewhat wave Izuku off, talking about it. He knows a good blacksmith. It shouldn't be a problem. Him gonna nod his head before he's to take this off, handing it back over to the man, somewhat wearing the barbarian outfit outside. And when people do see Izuku, he does just sit there. Before he does go to walk back to the castle, some people trying to get his attention, him waving to them and going to someone's smile. Others quite intrigued with the armor he does wear. And he does it to feel it. The armor is light. The metal of it does make it a little weighty, but not by too much. It feels better, like some of his own standard gear. Maybe the tunic would be alright. Though, you'd have to give it a test run. See how defensive it is, how good it is. And that does mean quite a bit. Arriving back at the castle, Izuku, he does go to walk in. Before he has to make his way down the hall, and someone, they do to stand there, arguing with Pyra. Before they do to turn their head, and she does go to wave at Izuku. The other person gonna turn their head and see Deku. Before they just smile and run their way over. Before they do, go stop in front of him, and Izuku doesn't bring his hands up, them asking if he happens to be Izuku. Uh, Hi. Who are you? I'm Ely. I'm Pyra's sister. She didn't mention you being so odd looking. Your armor. Interesting. Her looking back up at Deku. She does have the same blonde hair, the same eyes, but she looks almost identical to Pyra. It's a little creepy. Her smiling at him before talking about it. She is quite happy. She came here to celebrate the festival, since much of their family may not be able to come to the capital. They're a little busy with a few other matters at the moment. And she's happy to see that Pyra might have chosen right. Her turning, giving her sister a wink, before turning back to Deku and patting him on his chest. Her hand somewhat lingering, talking about it. If Pyra doesn't take this one, then she'll be happy to take him off of her hands. Her gonna smile and talk about how she'd be happy to see them later. And Pyra does get somewhat yell at her sister. Izuku making his way past quickly and trying to head back to his room to put up this armor and go back to his new lessons. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.